Good morning.
Good morning.
It's a San Diego welcome. I'm Chris Sickema. I work on the presiding bishop staff as the coordinator for digital evangelism. And I'm fresh from Minnesota, and I was 10 minutes off the plane, and I said, I think I'll live here now. This is pretty wonderful, pretty wonderful. But I want to tell you guys a little bit about digital evangelism and the work that we do. So I'm going to start with a question or two. Have you ever struggled to create a vision statement? No one. Okay, got it. Have you ever been stymied by trying to find the perfect technocratic statement that captures accuracy and commitment and grabs the attention of every single person who's going to pass by? Have you ever just envisioned it, like written in Chrome somewhere for the ages to see with the light reflecting off and blinding people with its just sheer goodness? Me neither. Have you ever thought that more syllables are better?
No.
Okay, good. That's good. Have you ever read Karl Barth? You're familiar with Karl Barth? Okay. Lucky you guys. So Karl Barth was a 20th century theologian. He was brilliant, but verbose is a really nice way to say it. But he wrote the Church Dogmatics, which, how long do you think, like, using your hands, how long is the Church Dogmatics?
Yeah. 14 volumes.
Yeah, it's
I owned them.
10,000 pages. It's a lot, and when you read it, it isn't straightforward. Bishop Catherine, I assume you've read some of the Church Dogmatics. Yeah, it's tiny. And the crazy thing about it is that, like, it's this much text on the page and then this much footnote at the bottom. And the footnotes go on for pages and pages. Brilliant guy. And yeah, verbose is the right way to do it. But in the 60s, he was in New York. He was from Germany. And a reporter sat down and asked him near the end of his life if he could summarize his entire life's work, all of these volumes and volumes and pages, into a single thought or statement. How would he do it? Which I think is some of what we do as well, right? I mean, we're not penning 10,000 pages, thankfully, I hope. But he came up with something. Is anyone familiar with this story? Okay. He said this. And you probably know it. Jesus loves me, this I know, for the Bible tells me so. Little ones to him belong, they are weak, but he is strong. Pretty good, right? So what we can offer in digital evangelism, let me tell you what we're not going to offer. And what you guys hopefully won't be offering either. You're not going to offer to create a new message full of jargon and buzzwords. You're not going to, and we're not going to monetize your like stream or content market your market content. Those are all nonsense terms. And we're not going to write an encyclical telling you that everything you know is wrong, and that all you have to do is these 5 easy steps, and then your churches will be full. We're not going to promise that. Yep. Sorry. But for the low price.
Oh wait, we get 2.
You'll get 2, right? I'll send you the Church Dogmatics. That'll work. But what we can offer instead is to help you tell the truth that you already know. That Jesus loves you. That Jesus loves your neighbor. We're taking this online where people are already living portions of their life. And with that, I think we're going to step over to Jeremy.
So what is it? I'm Jeremy Tackett. I'm the digital evangelist for the church. And what does that even mean? That's where we want to start. What is the idea of what we're trying to do? Why are we here? Why are we taking a Saturday morning to talk about digital evangelism? And the joke that I tell is they gave me the job title that's the 2 hardest words for Episcopalians. We want you to be digital and we want you to be evangelists. And that's...
I can't do more than one.
Right. Pick one maybe, but how do we do both? And what I want to propose to you is that what we're asking you to do on social media and the way that we want you to look at doing things digitally is not another thing to add to your plate. We don't want you to, you've got to do the bulletin, you've got to do the newsletter, you've got to do the website. Now we also want you to do Facebook and Twitter and Snapchat and Instagram and WhatsApp and whatever the rest of them are. We want it to be more than just a thing to manage. And as we began the work on the church-wide level of doing digital evangelism, there was a task force that was started at the last General Convention, the Task Force for Leveraging Social Media as Tools for Digital Evangelism, which took me about 3 months into the job to get that whole title down. And where they had to start, before they could come up with a curriculum or a plan, which is work that we're still doing, where we had to start was, what does it even mean to do evangelism from an Episcopalian context? What is it for us to even engage in this practice? And what they came up with was a wonderful theological paper that is going to be released hopefully ahead of the next General Convention. But at the beginning of that paper, we drilled down the working definition of Episcopal evangelism. And I will tell you guys before I go to the next slide that we're going to provide all these slides to you. We'll give them to Hannah and she'll pass them around, so you don't have to worry about taking detailed notes. You'll have all of these things. But this is the definition that we came up with. We seek, name, and celebrate Jesus' loving presence in the stories of all people, then invite everyone to more. Hashtag Episcopal Evangelism. And it's 132 characters. Why? Why is it that short? It'll fit on Twitter. So in the vein of what Chris was talking about, we had to boil down these large ideas into a very quick, simple statement that makes sense. The way that we understand evangelism is it is speaking to what we have seen and known as God's goodness and offering those words of testimony like seeds on the ground. What you won't find in this statement is anything about conversion or anything about we have to get them into a church or we haven't been successful until we reach certain numbers or percentages. We see our role as to name God's goodness in people's lives and invite people to see God in their own lives and then invite them to be part of this journey, this Jesus movement that we believe we're called to. When we can do that, then we feel like we are doing the work of evangelism. And a quick word about doing this work digitally, doing this online. In many ways, the digital world is our new city center. It's our new public square where folks meet, where they have conversation, where they do life together. And in a lot of ways that's the same, in that you're talking to people that you know, you're inviting them to be part of your life. But I want us to be very honest up front about one of the hesitations we have about doing this online, and that is that folks are often a lot more confrontational online. They're a lot more open online. They're much more willing to say, I disagree with you. You run into a lot more anger and vitriol and hate, and I don't want to say that it's negative all the time, but we all approach this knowing that that's a possibility, that that's something that is very real, and I think it's important for us to name that. But I also think it's important for us to understand that that truth shouldn't be a negative, because what that means is people that may never set foot in a church have found a place where they can ask questions, or they feel comfortable to say, I don't agree with this, I don't believe in this. And what's happening is, in whatever way they are able to do it, they are opening a dialogue. They are engaging us. And that is absolutely a win for us as an organization. So as we begin to think about this, and we're going to spend a lot more time on this conceptual stuff. Everybody laughs at this slide and I always forget why. We're not going to spend a ton of time telling you specifically how to do things on Facebook here, about how to post a video or how to do specific technical ad things. And that's very intentional, because whatever technology we teach you is going to change by the time we get on the plane and get back to New York. What I will say is we offer a couple of things. We work one-on-one with parishes, with dioceses, with individual communicators. We love to walk through those specific issues with you. And we will also say that whatever technology is out there, there is a 14-year-old on YouTube that can teach us how to do it. So what I want us to focus on as we begin to look at this as tools for evangelism is the conceptual. Why do we do this? How do we tell a story online? We want to think about principles and practices that we can use no matter what the technology is. And so one of the first questions that we want to think about is, what is it that we want to do? If our working principle is that definition of evangelism, if what we want to do is seek, name, and celebrate God's loving presence and then invite people to more, how do we do that? What do we need to do? What decisions do we need to make? What kind of programs do we need to create to make that happen? And I would tell you that spending time on this question, what is it you want to do? What do you want to be about? What do you want your message to be? The more time you spend on this, the more successful you will be in everything that you do. Because the first step in having a great social media profile and presence isn't proficiency at Facebook ads. It's not being able to understand Google Analytics. It's about knowing the values and the identity of your organization. That's what your social media strategy is built on. That's what your communications foundation is what is it that you want to do. There's a great book called The Social Church by Justin Wise, and he has this quote that I love. He says, if a church doesn't have goals, if a church doesn't know what the finish line is that they're running toward, social media isn't going to be helpful. In fact, it's going to be a detriment to that church. Social media will make a poor vision fail faster. Imagine if you follow a Facebook page. They've convinced you to like their page, now you're looking for content, but that's as far as they ever take it. We want to get people on our Facebook page, we need to get our numbers up, we want people viewing our website. If that's the end goal, we've missed the point. Those are what we call vanity statistics. As it looks good to have a ton of likes and have a lot of people like your page, but if you don't know what you're asking them to be part of, if you don't have a deeper plan for the story that you're telling, you've spent a lot of time doing nothing. So that's where I encourage you to start. Think about, do you want to get more people in your church? That's an absolutely viable and legitimate goal for your social media. Maybe your goal is to get the word out about services you offer to the community. Maybe it's to take part in social justice actions. Maybe it's a combination of all of those, and your different methods for telling stories and the different vehicles that you use will serve one of those purposes. And that's what Chris is going to talk about in just a second. But before you begin to say, well, do we need Facebook or do we need Instagram? Do we need one person running it or do we need a team of people running it? The real questions you want to start with is, what do we want to do with this? What is our goal? And once you begin to work on that, you can craft the answers to those other questions around that. Does that make sense? So, with that said, I'm going to let Chris take over now, and we're going to talk a little bit about the big three. We'll talk about Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and focus on what kind of messages they're good to tell, what you can do with those platforms to tell different types of stories. Cool.
All right, how many of you all have an organizational Facebook page? Great. So what Facebook is good for, which you may already know, posting detailed updates with links, photo and video albums and galleries, sharing details about your parish, engaging your audience through comment sections and private messages, posting event details, and going live. Now I assume most of you have posted detailed updates with links. Excuse me. Yes?
Yes.
Okay, so what kind of things do you post there?
Events.
Events. Okay. Mostly events.
Well, happenings, things that have happened during the day or
Sure.
happened during the week.
Excellent.
Our weekly e-blast goes on to Facebook.
We just started doing that too with our sermons at work. Yeah.
Our blog,
Ah, you guys have a blog. Wonderful. What do you put on the blog?
It's still in progress, so sometimes we'll take better articles from the newsletter
Uh-huh.
that are more thoughtful. We just had a mission group come back from Haiti, so they were sending me updates every day,
Oh, how
photos,
cool.
so we put that on the blog as well.
Excellent.
Yeah.
That's great. How many of you post photo and video albums and galleries? Let me guess. Christmas? Easter? Pentecost? Good.
Vacation Bible School?
VBS?
Sort of, it's a kid one,
That's a
yeah.
hard one. Right, that's a hard one.
it's our, we do it often, like just, Palm Sunday, anything that's visual. We had a Chinese New Year celebration, we did that. Anything that we can put on there visually, we do. We try to do it weekly.
Wonderful. Great.
I was gonna say, I put a video up of our mortgage being burned.
Oh, those are really cool.
So that's
That's really cool.
That's a good one.
We actually had a liturgical service for that.
Really? That's wonderful. I've heard about that. All of our churches are very old.
With a
Right from,
fire
so
and everything outside the church.
oh, how cool.
Awesome.
Did you guys invite the community?
Yeah.
Good, good. Trying's great. Please. He's on the front guy. Let's see. How many of you have ever had to engage with an audience via the messages or the comment section, which can be tricky, but can also have great payoffs? Anyone want to share a story of it?
This is back when I worked for UC San Diego alumni, and I posted, I thought was an innocent picture, and they said, this is just proof that UCSD Dallas students are still doing drugs. And I was like, and it was unfolding while I was in a meeting, and I was, so we ended up going back and forth because I couldn't, I liked my job. I couldn't let that stay, but I didn't want to snuff it. I could have deleted it, and I just kind of responded to it about the art. And I just kept going back to this incredible art. And finally, the person who had started it and was the snarkiest was saying, I think this art is awesome.
Oh, that's so
I was
great.
like,
It's nice when that
"Oh,
happens,
fun." But
right?
it did take like a week.
Yeah.
It was a very stressful week.
Sure, I believe it.
We had a problem on Facebook that addressed this. We had someone, where they can go in and review us,
Mhm.
and it was someone who had been to our church in the past and was at best mentally unstable,
Sure.
and wrote a long, rambling thing, and then he wrote 17 responses to himself. But it's right up there on the top, so when people, go see that.
Right.
And I tried to get it removed from Facebook, by, saying it was inappropriate, or I tried a few times, they would not take it down.
Oh, no.
So the quick answer to that is in your settings on your Facebook page, you can actually just turn reviews off, and that's what we've done, and that's what I suggest the churches to do, because for the most part, those are typically just vehicles for the negative comments. And while you want to have venues for those, you want to give folks a chance to say things that's probably not the venue for it. So that's the quickest way to
Yeah,
just.
so what I did was I asked people from the church to please go in and write reviews, so at least it pushed this down.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, so.
Oh, good.
I can't follow that.
What about going live? That's something that we hear a lot of interest in, I think. Yeah, has anyone live streamed something?
We live streamed our service.
Gotcha. Do you do it via cell phone or a wireless camera?
No, we have a whole AV system. I actually
Got it. We did that in my congregation in New York, and we were very high tech at Heavenly Rest. We had a music stand and a cell phone, and it did the trick. It was wonderful payoff for almost no effort. Yeah.
So live streaming doesn't stay forever, right? It doesn't become a, is it?
It does on
become a-
Facebook. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. It saves
all
the
right.
video.
That was.
And one of the things that I would interject about going live is, I would say to give it a shot, to try it with an event, maybe with a short interview with someone, or maybe just setting up and depending on your church, we have some churches that they will live stream the sermon. We've got some rectors that do it where they just set the phone right on the pulpit and just have the streaming thing happening live. It is the single favored activity by Facebook's algorithm. If you do live streaming, you get about 300% more engagement than anything else that happens because Facebook promotes it. They build your audience for you. They want you to do live streaming, so they help you make it. It goes up higher on people's feeds. It'll be in more people's timelines than just a picture or a video that you do later. So it is the most engaged content. So I would encourage you to give it a shot. And I would also say that you always have the option to make a video stay, so you can do it live, and it doesn't have to be a video that stays forever. So you can try it pretty low risk and then delete it if you don't like it. But it's definitely something worth playing with.
Yeah, I think we used it at the West Missouri revivals with Bishop Curry's sermons, and it went really well.
Yeah, we streamed them. We didn't pay for any ads. We had about 80,000 people that saw those services because Facebook helped us. They helped promote it out, and then everybody that shared it went a little further, and it stayed very popular for a couple of weeks. And we were able, even at that level, at the national level, to then that's the great thing about this is you don't have to pay anything. You can do it with a cell phone and a free account and get the payoff of a cathedral that can do a full streaming process.
So I have a question about how Facebook works for pages as opposed to an individual page where you have friends and everybody sees it, or pretty much everybody sees it. On a page, it's not, 5 people are, engaged, or 20 people, and you have 300 people who have liked your page, but only a certain number of people have,
Interacted with it, or seen it, right?
So how do you say live is one way to boost that up, or?
Live is great. So do you want me to?
Yeah, please. Yep.
This is the analytical part is sort of what I do day to day. Live is a great way to do it. Facebook also, the more interaction there is on your pages, the more Facebook then makes things go higher. So it's sort of hard to break through at first. So and interaction is people liking anything, people making comments, people sharing. Anytime they take what's called an action on your page, that helps with the engagement. Also, posting regularly helps. And we'll talk a little bit about insights that'll help you figure out what the right times to post are and the kinds of content. But regular posting, also boosting, paying for ads occasionally helps. And they prefer pages that do boost. But the most important thing to remember is that not everybody's going to see every post, so it's important to post more than once, especially if it's about an event or something that's coming up. You want to have a plan for maybe a month out, a week out, a couple of days out, just to continue to do multiple postings, because the more you do, the more it's going to be seen.
One thing that I always think with Facebook, it would be so great if you get people to share. I mean, that's like a free app. But I've worked for a couple churches now, and that I have not figured out how to educate them and actually get them to get like one person in the church will do it for you. And I've tried over time. Do you guys have any good suggestions on how to teach our people to share?
Write controversial content. No, that
will do it.
That'll do it. But it is an education process. I think one of the things that you can do that we've seen parishes do is just do an evening where you invite folks to come in and walk them through how to do things on Facebook. I've actually seen churches do it really well where they get the youth group involved, and the youth group will teach the older members of the congregation. It's like bring your own iPad night, so everybody brings your device in, and we'll get you signed up if you don't have an account, or teach you how to find the church's page and how to do things like share content. A lot of it is just basic education. Sometimes folks will share it, but they don't realize that they're only sharing it to a small number of people. They're not sharing it publicly. And so just walking through some of those technical details can help get your numbers up too.
I do think making sure that the people that you really want to share, to have them share would be your X generation, your Y generation, I'm the X generation, is we have a lot more friends on our Facebook. I think I have, 1,500 friends on my Facebook. And so I shared our sermon last week from St. Paul's, which I rarely ever do. And I got a lot of hits on the sermon because the sermon was about what went on in Charlottesville. And, his sermon was a bit controversial in a good, and I mean that in a good way. It got a lot of my friends who are non-religious people across the world talking on my Facebook about this particular sermon. So I think that would be a really big goal for people, is to really speak to your youth group and that kind of thing. I think that's a great suggestion.
And controversial content is we sort of joke about that, but relevant content and staying on the pulse of what's happening is great. I mean, our Episcopal news service this weekend is running in a hashtag Episcopal eclipse and asking folks around the church, what are you doing with your church for the eclipse? And just Pokemon Go, whatever the big thing is, finding ways to engage. And it does require sort of staying on the pulse, but when you can do that, you'll increase your engagement.
Yeah, we did, speaking of Pokemon Go, we did do something, once that was a huge hit, our cathedral got really involved with that and made it a point, because we're right by Balboa Park, and that was big last year. And so it's really kind of staying with the trends that
Yep,
are going
exactly.
on for you to always be seen.
Definitely. And one of the things you might also take advantage of that's lighter than that even is to pay attention to the networks that already exist in your congregation. I mean, Barry, our web guy, who you may meet this afternoon, his first piece of advice to me when I started this work was, whenever you go to another town, if you're passing through on your own, find an Episcopal church, take a picture of it, and send it. And you would not believe the kind of things we hear back on the Facebook page when we post those photos. We have people who say, oh my gosh, my great-grandparents were married in that church. Like I was baptized there 40 years ago in the middle of absolute nowhere. And that's really great to have those stories out there and people connect where they haven't talked for 30 years. That just happens on the Facebook page. But also to take advantage of your volunteer networks, your altar guild. I mean, you always got to stay on the altar guild's good side. We know that. But highlight the work that individuals are doing. Then you tap into their personal network as well. They start sharing it. Then you have a wider reach. But also you're really lifting up the work that's happening in your parish. And you show it's not just all of us sitting there on Sunday morning then leaving. It's a life. It really is.
And be brave.
Right.
Be brave in the sense that a lot of my posts are just friends with friends. But if it's going to be something about your church, open it up to where it's got the world symbol. That is actually really hard for me to even do, because I have a lot of non-religious friends.
Sure.
So, but I am brave about it.
Yep.
So, being a gay man and kind of putting it out there, I have a lot of friends that are like, oh, whoa. But over the years, I've watched these people start going, oh wow, I see you're not being judgmental, you're loving.
Yeah.
This is a great cathedral you go to. Wow.
It's a testament.
I look forward to coming to visit you, and we'll go to church with you on Sunday. And so I get a lot of that. It's very shocking.
That's great.
So in a good way.
Fantastic.
So you can do an individual post that's closer to the world, but we're not going to see individual posts.
No, exactly. So in other words, that particular post, you put the world on it. You say you want to make this public. And that particular post I make public, and then I go back and change for whatever I want to post, like the funny little Dear Americans, the eclipse one, anyway. That one I leave with friends of friends.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
I think that there is content, thinking about your content,
Sure.
the message.
All right. What time are we out of here? I feel like
We got like 20 minutes.
Okay,
so we're gonna
all right,
run.
we're gonna motor.
But-
Instagram.
Instagram.
Who here uses an Instagram for their parish or cathedral ministry? Great. These are mostly parishioners. The diocese runs one. I just found out from Hannah. Already tagged on there. Great for candid, in-the-moment looks into what's happening in your parish. You can do short video message. I think now it's up to a minute, which is great.
You're right. See, that's what I'm saying with the
It
technology
changes.
changes.
Constantly. Galleries of photos. Posting announcements that don't need to link to additional info. We'll hit on that in a second. Instagram stories, and visually representing the vibrant life of your parish. Instagram, if you aren't familiar with it, it's extraordinarily visually based. It is not textual in any way compared to the other ones. So of those of you who use Instagram for your parish or ministry, what do you highlight with it?
When we launched our Instagram account, I didn't want to be mimicking our Facebook or Twitter account because we have an extremely strong Facebook account. I wanted to be completely separate. So we set it up to specifically talk about what we're talking about in the forums. So it's
Great.
specifically related to the outreach
Wonderful.
ministry. And so we do an image and then we always have a question that's related to that.
That's pretty cool. I hadn't heard that before. That's really great. Anyone else?
We post crazy things that go on during the day and
Uh-huh.
during the week.
And do you run the thrift shop? Is that?
Yeah,
Oh,
I'm
sorry.
an administrator of the church.
Got it.
Charlotte and I sit next to each other.
Ah.
If
How do you get anything
she's
done?
If she's buried, we don't. Last week she was buried under BBS stuff.
Sure.
She took a good picture of her office, and it's what's happening day to day, because people, to get out of the, you work during the week?
Yeah, what do you do, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's also a really good tool for youth. So I'm Charlotte from Christ Church, but also the youth missioner for the diocese. And in addition to the diocesan Instagram, there's also an EDSD youth page, which if your church isn't connected to, is a great way to know what's coming up for youth, but also for them to connect to, because kids don't go to Facebook to find out what's happening. And it's important to reach them where they are. A lot of times when I'm trying to reach youth, even just about an event, I'll take a Sharpie and a piece of paper and I'll write youth group tonight, 7 p.m. I have pizza, and take a picture of it and post it. because they won't read what I wrote underneath it,
Right.
but they'll read the picture.
Absolutely. That's funny. Now, how many of you, I'm going to collapse these into terms I don't even love, but how many of you go to an Anglo-Catholic parish? I didn't make it this far west, huh? Okay. You're out here? Okay. What about what I would describe as myself, a snake belly low church? Very Protestant looking.
Wow, that's a very Midwestern term.
It's very Midwestern. You guys don't have snakes here? Okay, so one of the really fascinating things that I have learned doing the Instagram account for the Episcopal Church is the wide variety and diversity of expressions of the faith. It is mind-boggling, I would say. So during Holy Week this year, every day of it, I would find folks who are tagging their pictures as Episcopal or tagging the Episcopal Church in them, and looking at the way that their faith is expressed on Holy Wednesday, during Tenebrae services, Maundy Thursday, etc. And every day I could cull from those by asking permission. That's an important thing. But highlighting just the absolute breadth of practice within the Episcopal Church that I was not aware of, and I'm a church historian. I have seen a lot of this stuff, but it is really wonderful. And that kind of thing is going on in your congregation as well. And you may know it, and you may need to be reminded of it. I know I do often. So you can pick those thematic things, and especially during the big times of the year, where people want to see, the
I
church.
did our Stations of the Cross.
That's a good one.
We have a nice set there,
Right.
area, and I took a photograph of each one and then did a little.
I may have stolen that from you guys too at some point.
And I was amazed at how engaging that was for people from all over the world.
Absolutely. I mean, it's hard to get people to make that initial step to walk into a church on a weekday, but you can show them what's inside, and that is often an invitation.
I wanted people to know where we are and who we are and what we look like, and I really focus on, I do the Episcopal and Episcopal Life, but San Diego and Bay Park, and try so people who are in, know where we are.
Right. Are you tagging the location?
Yes.
Good. Good. Posting announcements that don't need to link to additional info. Those of you who use Instagram probably know that it is the worst for trying to link information out, because when you type in your little caption, it doesn't turn into a link, so you get stuck with a shortened link that's like bit.ly/x132 lowercase v uppercase r. And no one's going to sit at their computer and type that out. So that part is it's not great about Instagram. Stories are something we've really enjoyed using, especially at EYE. Are you familiar with the Episcopal Youth Event? We had around 1,400 to 1,500 youth descend on Oklahoma, and it was the coolest experience, I think, of my life. It's up there, still processing it. But every day we would sit there and take pictures, and with that you can link to outside information. We could direct people to the sermon that was being live streamed at the time. That was really wonderful, and we had numbers that I can't even describe how they were huge. I mean, 1,000 people seeing it within 10 minutes and going and following through on it, because we gave them an outside link that tells them, here's what you're going to do next. You're going to watch this sermon. So yeah, there's Instagram. Any questions about Instagram before we move on? Oops.
You gave away the fun.
I know.
I think one thing to consider with Instagram, because it is so photo-based, is I think it's a great tool that you want to, people are looking at that photo, they want to be able to identify. So your audience becomes super important. And I do believe that for myself, I need to look at that photo and be able to relate to it. I need to be able to see people that look like people I could hang out with. I have a very diverse group of friends. I need to be able to see that there are people of color in that photo, because that's how I relate to the world. I need to feel that there's a minority base that I can fit in for me.
Sure.
That's just who I am.
Absolutely.
So I think that's really important. Instead of, I know for instance, when I was in Chicago looking for a specific church, I was having a difficult time because I'd go on these websites and I would see all of these older folks, which is great, but I didn't see in any of the photos people that I could relate to.
Sure.
That I was like, I don't know if I really want to go to that church. Yeah, it says they're accepting, but can I really relate?
Right.
So I think that's really important.
Definitely.
One of the things I would add to that, and talking about Instagram or Facebook, Twitter, but the importance of images. I've worked with a lot of churches who are trying to build their website, and they have an About Us page, and on there's maybe they want to have a section that says, what do you wear to church? What do people here like? And you can really struggle to put that into words. one of the ways that you can get around that is to do lots of pictures of things just happening. You can take 2 paragraphs and try to write what our congregation is like, or you can take a few pictures during services and during events during the week and post those and just let people see. These are the people that come to our church. This is what they wear. This is and that is incredibly important to visitors, because if they've all come with some perspective of what church is like. And they want to fit in. They don't want to be the person that comes that's wearing a suit and tie if everybody else is in shorts. And they don't want to be in shorts if everybody's wearing suits and ties. So you can really break down a barrier for folks that want to come into your church just by letting them feel comfortable with who the people are that are there. And you can take an Instagram account and post once a week and do more than the picture is 1,000 words. So
I mean, if you tell people that we are a church with a thriving youth group, but it's like looking for the Sasquatch, the picture is to find someone under the age of 30, you may need to readdress what your actual strengths are as a parish. You're showing off the assets that you have, rather than what you necessarily desire it to be in the long haul.
We do a lot on our flyers and stuff. I use a lot of multi-ethnic pictures on the flyers in hopes that people will come to our church. So our church is predominantly white, let's be honest about that. And that is my opportunity when I'm not showing actual pictures to try to create the church that we'd all love to have, where everyone knows they're invited. So those times when you're using photography from outside, it's really enormously important that you are using multicultural, multi-ethnicity, different ages and stuff. It's a way to do it really effectively.
Sure.
And stuff, so.
Yeah, absolutely.
How do you handle people that requires consent for their pictures to be?
That's a big question. So we use it. We have a photo and a request or photo release form that we have to use for pretty much everything on our end.
yeah, we use photo release forms if it's featuring a particular individual. If it's a group shot, we assume that if you are in a public place and you're in a group that there's not that pictures could be taken there. So we've never really had any problem with posting those. If it's an individual, we'll get permission to post their picture if they're the feature of the shot. And if we're dealing with children, we work through the youth minister and through the folks that are in charge of that group. We never, ever tag pictures. On our level, we don't really use many pictures of children. If it's an event like the Episcopal youth event where it's children featured, we work with the leaders of the event to make sure that we've had things and we follow very specific guidelines. I always suggest that if you have any question, especially about youth, working with your diocesan safe church folks are a great place to start. To make sure, but err on the side of caution. We really don't tag names of anyone in pictures unless it's maybe we're doing an interview with someone and they are the feature of what we're doing, and then they're very clear that that's what we're going to do. So we use a lot of common sense, and then if there's a question, there's usually someone diocesan that has some answers.
Yeah, one of the things that we're at St. Dunstan's, one of the things that we've done is we have some parishioners who are law enforcement. And so we make a point, we have a conversation with other friends of ours, to make a point that even in a group shot, that we'll say, okay, you can go over here, and we'll take the picture, and now you can go back to the group.
Yeah.
Being cognizant that, they have asked to not be in those shots,
Yep.
and so we make sure that they're not.
Absolutely. Diocesan chancellors are a great resource for that. I think in the Diocese of New York, they had approved some kind of language that went in all the bulletin inserts across the diocese that said, by being here, you're making it okay for us to do this, but it was important that it be highlighted every week in the bulletin. But talk to your chancellors.
I'm going to be our sergeant at arms
Okay.
and roll us through a little bit. We'll talk quickly.
Twitter. Who uses Twitter?
Yep, that's pretty typical.
I struggle with
It's
Twitter.
gotten a bad name.
Yeah.
How's that? What possibly could have
I can't
happened with
imagine what you're
Twitter?
talking about. It's great for sharing short messages, obviously, because you are limited to 140 characters. Reminders about events, driving traffic to your website or other social platforms, sharing or retweeting info from your ministry partners, or engaging individuals via @replies. I'm going to let you talk about Twitter because it is not my strong suit.
Twitter is great for, and again, to use the example that's out there, it is great for individuals. It's not so much a tool that works as your primary platform for an organization. It's not really built that way. It is good for if you have a church account, you may have some folks that follow it and you would link to other social media or to, I would say Facebook is absolutely first far and away it's your most used, I would put Instagram second, and a very distant third, I would put Twitter. Twitter can be very helpful if you have a rector who is active online, if you have a rector that is very popular, that if she or he have great messages that the community connects with, having an account for the rector or for a church leader where you maybe pull things from sermons, from quotes, it works really well for that. I would say that for every President Trump tweet, if you would retweet 2 Bishop Currys, we can save the world. At PB_Curry, and we're good to go there. So that would be my push. But the last thing I would say is try new things. And we'll let Chris explain this picture, and then I'm going to...
Absolutely. We learn from y'all probably more than you learn from us. We look at what happens out in the field and what catches our eye and think, this is a good idea. We can make this happen at a different level. This was from West Missouri. We went to Kansas City for a revival, and we had invested in some Snap Specs, which are little sunglasses with a camera here and a timer here, and they're good for recording micro interviews, as in
or
10
Snapchat
to 30 seconds.
specifically.
Yeah, it only works on Snapchat. But we went to a lock-in at one of the churches, and Bishop Curry walked in with these going, and it is one of the funniest things I have ever experienced, because it has a microphone as well. So we walked in the room, and he had no idea what they were, but the kids loved it. And you could just hear him talking, oh my gosh, what is this? It was great. But part of it was, finding this technology that was inexpensive and had possibly a huge payout, and we went for it, and we used it, and we found out things about it that we love, found things we don't like. But we're better for it now, for trying it. And one of our hopes is that we'll be able to get some of these technologies and try to share with the wider church what their benefits are and what their drawbacks are.
One of them that would be interesting, I would like for our cathedral to try, is the 1-second video. It's the day in the life 1-second video. My friend uses it all the time.
I've never heard of it.
Fascinated by her 1 second, just little 1-second clips of her daily life.
Then you put it together for a month or yeah.
And you watch it, it's like, whoa, what's going on there?
Oh, that'd be really cool.
And I highly recommend that. I haven't tried it myself, but I watch my friends every day because I'm fascinated by it.
It'd be an interesting if you have a super active parish to like what's happening every single day over the course of a year.
Yes.
Even the days there's not anything, but you would see how few of those there were.
Mm-hmm.
So the second is just a caption of a picture of somebody moving, and it's, when you combine them together, it's like, wow, that seems very busy and awesome.
Right, and it is. That's church life, isn't it?
It is.
All right, I'm going to hand it off.
So, one of the things that's important to remember, especially when you try new things, is if you learn from it, it's not a failure. And everything that you try, whether it works really, really well or it doesn't work at all, you have the opportunity to figure out how to craft a better message when you analyze. And this happens with after actions with events that you do or programs. We always forget we do so much lead up to create the thing, and then when the thing is done, we move on to the next thing. And what I would encourage you to is, especially in social media, especially online, viewing your insights, which is your statistics, your analytics. And this doesn't require any special training. It doesn't require having courses in Google or Facebook, but just taking note of what works on your page. We won't get into tons of detail on this. We're actually in the process of working on some webinars that we'll do that we'll invite everybody to walk you through the details. But if you have a Facebook page, you have access to what's called Facebook Insights. Maybe you've played with these or maybe you haven't. But I would encourage you to just go, and currently on Facebook pages, when you're in the administrator side, the 4th tab over is your Insights. That may change. The word is probably not going to change. But I would encourage you to just click on that and play around, because Facebook gives you tons of data about your users. You can find out demographic information. You can understand when they're online, what content they engage with the most, what they share the most. And as you sort of walk through these pieces, you see what kind of actions they're taking. So you see if people are commenting regularly. And what this does, it's sort of a 100,000-foot view or a long view. You can look at the past week or past month or past 6 months, and you can see when they're taking actions, like when they're commenting, when they're liking, how many page views you're getting, what their engagements are, so when they're sharing it, how long it's taking you to respond to messages, all kinds of this data. And what this helps you do is to understand what that engaging content is. So to answer the question of how do you get people more connected, how do you get them to share more, looking at your insights, you can click on this tab that says posts, and you can see all of your posts in a list. So everything that you've posted for the last year. And it will show you some graphs of which had the most views, which had the most shares. And what you'll begin to see is, wow, whenever we post a picture, it's shared 10 times more than when we post a link. Or when we post a sermon with audio, it does better than a sermon with video. You'll see some surprising things. And so what you do as communicators then is craft your next content around what worked last time. If your audience, they are telling you what they want more of. They are telling you what they're interested in. You can learn about what other pages they like, what their interests are as parishioners and as followers of your page. And then you get more engagement by creating content around those things. If they love pictures and 30-second videos, do more pictures and 30-second videos. If you really, really, really think that long blog posts are important and you love them, but no one engages in them, it doesn't work. Or, this is much more often as communicators, if you have a rector that thinks long blog posts are really, really, really good, and you know they're not, you can get away from anecdotal evidence and you can say, look, people don't read them. People don't, if we need to focus more, we need to invest more in this, we need to ask more folks. Maybe you see that content that you release doesn't do that well, but when you ask a parishioner to write something for you, that does really well because it's a different voice. Insights tell you everything. This is the key. This is what makes a page different than an individual profile, is your access to all of this. Facebook telling you what works. We're running a little bit late, I'm sorry.
No, it's good.
We're gonna be like 5 more minutes.
This is fascinating. Go on.
So that's all I want to say about that. We can do courses. You can do college courses on all the amazing things you can do with Insights. But if you just go in and do no more than say, wow, there's a spike right there, and you can click on this one and put the mouse over it, and it'll tell you what date that is, and it'll tell you what post did it. It'll do all that for you. And every single box on Facebook's Insights has this little eye with a circle. Anything that you're not sure what that is, just mouse over it, and Facebook explains it in very, very simple terms. So you don't know what an action on a page is, just mouse over and it will tell you what it's counting. And it's very, very simple. What is an engagement versus a reach? All of those things are absolutely clear, and all of this is absolutely free. To not use it is to just miss something they're offering you. Yeah.
Can I ask a really stupid question? Because I asked my
You can ask a
Facebook
question.
person
It
and
is
she
not-
gave me an answer and I still hadn't a clue. So we have a Facebook page and I have the login, but I don't know how to get to the login to get to that.
So
Is there a little symbol or something on there? I mean,
if you are logged in as you have to be an administrator on the page. So if you, whoever set it up, we're gonna deviate a little bit. Let me see if I can just show you here.
I have the information. I don't know where to go. She said, well, just go there and put this information in. I go, well, it doesn't tell me where I'm going.
I don't have any Wi-Fi.
Okay.
So, let's see, we will, I'll turn this on, and I'm gonna talk for a second, then we'll go back to this when I get the internet working. But I can answer that question for you. The last thing I wanna do is I wanna give you guys a couple tricks of the trade, and we always like to end with, there are a couple of absolutely free tools that will make your life so much easier as communicators running a bunch of different things. The first, and neither of these are tools that we're paid to use or to promote, they're just really good. The first one is called Hootsuite, Hootsuite. What Hootsuite does is it takes all of your different social media, and for an account that's absolutely free, you can put them all in one place. So you can run Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and even Pinterest all from one site. There's no software to this, it just runs from a website. So it'll work on any platform, it'll work on your Mac, your Windows computer, your Android device, whatever. What this allows you to do is bring everything into one place, and you can post to all of your different platforms from one page. You can choose what you post where, so you don't have to post everything to all the places. You can put certain things on Facebook, certain things on Instagram, certain things on Twitter. You do get some analytics features here, so it'll pull some of that data in and let you see how your posts are performing on all of your different tools. And the thing that is life-changing is it will let you schedule your posts across all of your networks. So instead of having to constantly look at different tools and different pages and, okay, I need to remember to post Thursday, that there's a thing happening on Thursday night, you can take 1 hour of your week and schedule your posts out for that week. And I'll talk about that more in just a second. I'm going to show you just what this looks like. So this is, you have different tabs at the top. I forgot my mouse doesn't work here, but so this is our Twitter feed, this is our Facebook feed, and then all of these you can pick what you want to see. So this is our Twitter feed. This is everybody we follow. This is every time that we are mentioned anywhere on the internet. So you can follow hashtags if you have an event hashtag for, say, a Comfest. You can create a column that will search, so every time that hashtag comes up, you see it. So every time somebody mentions your parish, and this works for Facebook as well, or Instagram, you can see all your inbox messages, you can see everything you've tweeted. As you schedule tweets, it will show you where things are coming up. This is your tool, your publisher. You can pick what you want to post. You want to post something at 8 a.m. to Twitter, and you want to post on noon and Tuesdays to Facebook. You schedule all of that out, and you can do it as far in advance as you want. And you can schedule as many posts as you want. I've tried to find it. It's been a few years since we did it with my local church. We actually worked with a group of seminarians to create a timeline of everything that we knew that happened at a certain time, but on Holy Friday to Easter Sunday. And actually we did it from the Last Supper, and we live tweeted Thursday night through Sunday morning of Holy Week, like 100 tweets with all of the Bible references, and we told the story in real time. And the only way we could do that was using a tool where we could schedule all the posts, and it took us a month or two to do it. But then on that week, when in the busiest week of the church year, when you don't have time to do anything, you just let it run, and all these things were retweeted, and it was like you were getting this live feed of something that happened. Very cool. I'm going to have to find it. We've got to post it as a resource on our blog so that other churches can use it. But that's a tool that you can use. The other thing that happens with scheduling is you're able to look backwards and see what you have focused on. So you can look at the last 6 months of posts and realize that you've posted a lot about worship services, but not very much about your community outreach. Or you've posted a lot about your youth ministries, but not a lot about senior ministries that happen. So you begin to see where your gaps in your communication are. Great, great tools. If it's not Hootsuite, use something to schedule. Yes?
I've used Hootsuite for a long time, and the thing I like about it is it eliminates the distractions of going to the actual platform.
Yes, yeah. You don't go down the rabbit hole of looking at everybody's Facebook page. Yeah.
That's exactly right.
The last tool I want to tell you about is a tool called Canva. Does anybody use Canva? All right.
Good.
So we'll do, most of you use it, so if you don't, what Canva does for you is it lets you create amazing visual, professional looking images without having to have the software or the background to do it. So you can create free templates. The amazing thing that Canva does for you is it will resize your image to all of the social networks. So with one click of a button, you can create a graphic, and now you have one that fits on Instagram, you have one that fits as a Facebook cover shot, you have one that fits as a Facebook ad, one that fits on your website, and
That's only you pay for it.
No, it's free.
no,
Is that
you can do the resize for free, I think.
Can you?
No.
It depends on the photo you pick.
Some say you can, some say
Apply to them
It
for
depends on the photo you pick, because the photos aren't.
and then
The photos are free.
I can tell you from personal experience, it's necessary sometimes. I used to work in Jubilee Ministries, and I made this beautiful Facebook banner that said Jubilee across it, and I did not resize it. I just posted it across platforms. And things came up on people's platforms that just said bile across the middle of it. So lesson learned, pay attention to the sizes of what you're posting.
So So we'll have time, we'll have Q&A time at the end of the day. We'll also have another session. We're going to kind of do this again, and we'll probably talk about a few different things. But I want to end with this. It's what I end all of the talks and discussions with. Our hope in you doing this is that you will be yourself as you are in Christ. Discover this new place and discover it more fully. Treat every person you meet as holy ground. Be open to speak from your faith. Invite continuing relationship. And that's true whether it's at the grocery store or on Facebook. It may be that our practice of evangelistic presence and listening and speaking can carry people into more deep relationship with Jesus. And welcome to the adventure. Thank you.